Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Shadowcast, the post show commentary for the Realmsmith Shadowrun Excommunication live stream. Really glad to have you back with us. I'm really excited to talk to my guests for this week. I've got Bob Volbrecht, who is one of the lead Catalyst demo team agents. I think you used to run the Shadowrun area, right?
Yeah, I used to be in charge of. I had to take a step back from that. Real life got in the way.
But you
So
know all
now,
the things.
oh yeah, it's been there, done that, and I'm second in command now. They talked me back into that.
Awesome, awesome, good. And then I've got Aaron Dykstra, who is the Shadowrun missions developer currently, which means all of the plot and story that you are getting at the conventions for Shadowrun missions is spearheaded by Aaron. And I was really excited to have both of you on because, it's episode 7. And people, we've got a fan base. There's people that are really enjoying the series and wanting to start to play Shadowrun themselves. And so where do people go and how do they get started? And you two are the people to ask. So really excited and thank you guys for joining me. First thing I want to talk about is I'll ask each of you. We'll start with you, Bob. How did you get into Shadowrun?
Oh wow. Um, well, way back in my youth, I'm going to the game store to pick up some games, and I see this new product on the shelf, Shadowrun. Way back in 1989. Uh, it was. I picked it up, and I've been hooked ever since. I mean, quite frankly, I've been a I've was a player for all of about 4 months, and then I started GMing, and so now I've been a GM for 35 years.
So what about that game that you picked up as opposed to the other games you picked up at the game store? What drew you in?
The biggest part was the cyberpunk aspect. I've always been, for me, the cutting edge technology has always been what drew me in, and there's the sci-fi games, and but Shadowrun itself, brought in that fantasy aspect, which played off my youth of playing D&D. So it was like the perfect mesh of this future technology and D&D, and I got to play with both. And it's
That's
like
awesome.
I said, I've been hooked ever since.
Cool. Now, what about you, Aaron?
So I was at a gaming convention back in 2014 or 2015 in Tacoma. It was more of a miniatures convention, but there was one GM for a bunch of different game systems. And after like the first hour of nobody showing up to play games, we all sat down and decided to play each other's tables just to do something for the day. And I sat down with a guy named Ben, and we played Shadowrun for probably a good 6 hours, and
Wow.
I was hooked. I had done mostly fantasy RPGs for my previous years, and getting a chance to see the cyberpunk aspect in it, and being able to pull in like, oh yeah, you can go look that location up on Google Maps right now and sort of use that for your tactics and use that for your planning was sort of eye opening, and I've been in love with it since.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So, Bob, let's start with you. I want to hear a little bit about what is the Catalyst demo team and where do you run events?
All right. Well, the Catalyst Demo Team is a group of volunteers that are basically just love running the game. Shadowrun's only one of the many games that they do. They also have BattleTech and Leviathan's the new thing. There's board games, card games. There's numerous things. But we run events at conventions, numerous conventions all across the world. We just had people at Essen last weekend in Europe. But also, we have agents who run events at local game stores. And then we have Shadowrun Missions Online, which is a Discord and Roll20 based internet community where you can where we run events and you can play.
So you can if you want to get started right now and you want to play online, you can go to Shadowrun Missions Online. And if you want to play in person at various conventions, the Catalyst demo team is where it's at.
Correct.
Okay.
And, it's just finding out what conventions they're at and who's running stuff. A lot of times it's just easier to go to the convention's website themselves and look at the events and see what's posted.
Where are you going to be for the rest of this year?
Well, the stuff I personally know about coming up, there's Arcadia Con, which is a small convention in Dayton. There's Gamehole Con.
It's in Madison.
Yeah, I was going to say Wisconsin. I wasn't sure where at in Wisconsin. I know those are the two coming up the quickest, and then there's I know there's going to be activity at PAX West. I'm just not sure how much.
PAX Unplugged.
Or PAX Unplugged, that's right. PAX West is the other one. There's so many PAXs. PAX East, PAX West, PAX Unplugged.
Australia, too. We want to go to Australia?
Yeah.
I think that was this past week, so I think we're going to be waiting a while for that.
Yeah. There's I don't know. I'd have to look at the calendar. There's so many, but I know those are the ones for sure.
Well, and I know I'm not sure what games yet are happening for the demo team for PAX Unplugged, but I do know that some of our cast members are going to be at PAX Unplugged. So if you really enjoyed the show, if you want to see more of it, come say hi. I'll be there. I know Jason will be there, and there's a few of the other cast members that have said that they're planning on coming as well. So that would be exciting to have you guys come say hi. Cool. So at the convention, you either sign up for tickets online or at the show or get generics and wait. But what can they expect? What are the different options for Shadowrun that they can play at the conventions?
Well, our most common event is the Shadowrun Missions Living Campaign, which are typically 4-hour sessions, and it is an ongoing living campaign that spans multiple years. Though we are currently in the last season of the current arc, and I don't want to steal too much of Aaron's thunder. You can talk about the rest of the mission stuff on that. But we also do have builder runner sessions where we will actually sit down and teach people how to build a Shadowrun character, because it is daunting, especially if you're a newcomer to the game. It can be quite overwhelming because it's quite endless possibilities. So we do a builder runner workshop where we sit down and do that, and we also do events we call First Taste, which is just a little 2-hour session where we sit down and just introduce you to the game and teach you how to play. Usually just hand you a pre-gen and jump into it and teach you how to play.
Awesome. I know the First Taste, when I was intimidated by GMing for Shadowrun, that was the one I sat down because I was like, all right, I can GM that because if I mess up the rules, no one's going to catch me on it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
The First Taste are my personal favorite because I just improv the whole thing.
I ran one. I only demo agent did. It's a verb now. For 1 year, and I ran the same scenario that I made up for every table that I did, but every single table approached the problem so vastly different that it was fun to kind of see how they made the decisions that they did and ended up sneaking in or blowing stuff up or it's and especially for a First Taste, it's all about yes and it's like, sure, that works.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And it's great, and it's new players that have no preconception of how they're supposed to do it. That's another favorite part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's really it's another episode of Shadowcast, so I have to say this at least once per episode. But like this show, it's not designed for experienced Shadowrun players. It's if you want crunchy rule systems and the rules need to be 100% accurate, that's not what this is. We want new players to come in because they fall in love with the world and the story and the characters, and that's what those First Tastes are. Similarly, so cool.
I would call out that the demo agents are just fantastic resources to teach you the rules, right?
Yeah.
Like we have people like Bob with tons and tons of experience. We've got folks that have been only GMing for a couple of years, but have fallen in love. They know the rules inside and out, and we're here to teach.
Agreed. And as in love with Shadowrun as I am, I have never been 100% on the rules. And, you know, even during the shoot, there were times when a rule system would come up and I'd text someone in my community. Sometimes it was you, Aaron. Sometimes it was our producer, Teslan, where I'd be like, what's the rules on this? I don't remember. So, yeah, there's people that have deep knowledge. You can always be learning new Shadowrun, and there's always new books for new rules too. So Aaron, tell us a little bit about, so we know that you can show up, you can sit down and play, you can build a runner, you can get a little dabble of it, and then there's these missions. So explain what missions are and how this works.
Yeah. So we've got a living campaign. Really, what that means is we've got an ongoing story that you get to take part in, and you get to sort of influence. And what I mean by influence is you'll sit down at the table. You and your team are going to accomplish the goals that we've set out. I kind of make a joke. Shadowrun missions is sort of Shadowrun on easy mode. And part of the reason is because we realize everybody's learning. We could have people that are coming straight out of Build-A-Runner with a fresh character that they haven't put it to the test yet. And we want to make sure they have fun. There are difficulty levels if you want to make it harder. Like our GMs are equipped to make it harder for you if you want. Or if they sense that you're having an easy time, they may make it harder for you. But it is an ongoing story. We just finished up our story in Seattle, which spans 24 specific scenarios. So you can drop in, play them in any order you want. Very rarely do we have things that are very specific order. And then any experience you gain, you get to apply to your character and bring it to the next scenario and continue on and grow that character along with influencing the story.
So, and you said you can play them in order. Does that include the season finale?
We do our best to make sure that the season finale sort of wraps it up, makes this big culmination. But we don't want to make it so that, like, okay, well, I played the season finale because that was the only thing I could get into at a convention. I can't go back and play the others. No, absolutely, you can go back and play the others. There's only, like, if I look at all of Seattle, all 24, there's only 2 missions that have to be played in specific order, and that's 17 and 22. Everything else, like, you can play in any order you want.
Okay, all right. So, can you give us an example maybe from like a previous season or a previous series even of what kind of storylines people can find as they play the missions?
Yeah, so if I'll pick on Seattle. There's a couple different storylines that we told within that 24 missions. The primary sort of main story that we wanted to tell was around this faction came in and it was trying to unionize Shadowrunners. They wanted to, but it wasn't for the motives that you necessarily thought it was. It wasn't altruistic, right? Like, they wanted to control.
It never is with Shadowrun.
Yeah, we can't have our dystopia, right? Or wait, we have to have our dystopia. And so they would come in and they were trying to convince runners that you wanted to work for us. You wanted to only do our runs. We'd make sure you're going to get paid well. But once they got their foot in the door, it was all about, like, well, you know, we're not going to give runs to these other companies. We're going to make sure, like, these runners aren't going to get jobs anymore because they don't abide by our rules. And so it really became a sort of a battle between the old guard and this sort of new union and trying to control the streets. So that was one of them. We had another one where there was an internal fight between the Triad, and you were getting hired by different factions as they moved through the season, which ultimately culminated with a major power struggle within one of the 3 Triads in Seattle.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, one of the things, so I haven't gotten to play missions in a while, you know, like the more into Shadowrun I got and the more I started working with Catalyst and for Catalyst, the less I get to play Shadowrun now. So I really miss the missions because I would just show up and sit down at the tables. And like you said, I wouldn't do them in order necessarily, but the story progressions and the NPCs that you meet along the way and the way it kind of unfolds and you're figuring out the puzzle of the the season and what you got to do, and then you go in and face that finale. Like it feels like a TV series or a movie or something like that, where you're climbing and you're figuring that out, and then you get to that big climax and come down on the other side. So they're always very well written and a lot of fun. So
I love the fact that this is usually the foot in the door for people who want to learn how to write. So we bring in writers. We make an open call every year to bring in brand new writers that are super excited, and they tell the story in their own unique way that is makes it so that each mission ends up having its own unique feel, its own unique pacing, and then their takes on the NPCs as well. I love going back to Chicago, where you've got Sid Gambetti, which this slime ball fight promoter slash basically used car salesman. And you could see where some writers just loved him and just like played him over the top, and he showed up a lot. And then the other ones that just treated him like the scuzzbag that I feel he is. And just seeing those play out, and then watching the GM sort of react to that, it's kind of like theater, right? Like you've got the writer, you've got the director, and you've got all the cast members, and they're all doing interpretations. And so each time you play a game, there's this brand new interpretation, which is super fun to watch.
Yeah, you saying that really, it does call to mind. I remember being a new player, and there were those NPCs and those fixers and stuff that show up repeatedly, and everyone would be like, oh, it's Simon Andrews, oh, it's Sid, oh, it's Matt Rath, or whoever. And you're like, as a new player, like, who's that? But it kind of gets you excited to be like, to join that club, so that the next time it's like, oh, Matt Rath. So I really like how that's done, and the personalities that are there, and that brings it to life. And they're all written, like, I know that Matt Rath talks in the third person, where the GM that I had at that time, where I met Matt Rath, is my headcanon Matt Rath. Yeah, very well done, very well written. And a lot of the writers for the Shadowrun missions end up moving on to write for the books, right?
The ones that do a fantastic job, right? Like there's a couple parts to it. One is it's going to sound like great stories, great ideas, right? Like we love to see those. They come from all over the place. But then there's other like more mechanical stuff of like, do you get your stuff in on time? Do you follow the writing guidelines? Like, and those don't feel as sexy, but those actually end up being really important.
Yes.
Just because, because both Bob and I end up being freelancers, and we turn in stuff, and it's got to be as good as possible within timelines, within word count, to make sure that when the players get it in their hands, like they're getting something that's high quality, that's well written, and we feel proud of what we put together.
Yeah. I remember us talking at Gen Con. We did one of these interviews, and I did some with the demo team as well. And it, as aspiring game designers, developers, writers, a great way to get your foot in the door is to come play with the demo team. Start playing, then start GMing, then like you start building those connections to be able to throw your name into the hat for the Shadowrun missions, because you always hit up the demo team for that, and kind of start to spiral and spit roll there. So
I like to say that, like, ultimately it's an open call. Anybody can submit their idea, but I do tend to bias towards the demo team, because they know the rules. They understand how it fits from a lore. They understand how it fits from a mechanics. So I deeply love that they're the ones also crafting this.
Awesome. Cool. So we do have a couple of questions in the chat. Feel free to throw more in while we're answering here. Really appreciate what you guys do. I started with Shadowrun by I got to play with one of the writers in our home game, and then I showed up to Origins and met some of the demo team and sat down at the tables and fell in love, became friends with you guys. So the demo team is always going to be near and dear to my heart. So let's see here. We've got questions. I'm not wearing my glasses. I better put those on, guys, because if I'm going to be reading this. Let's see here. We've got Giovanni, I did respond in chat. Congratulations on winning the giveaway. Please reach out to me at rem@catalystgamelabs.com and I'll get you hooked up. Let's see. We've got Big Red 40 Tech. Good to see you again, friend. I always love having you in chat, and I love showing up to your show and being like, "Hi, you want to be on our stream?" That is happening right now. That'd be really cool. So we've got, what are each of your favorite thing about Shadowrun in terms of the world itself, either story or mechanic? So Aaron, let's start with you.
I'll go with the lore because I have a funny feeling that Bob will go with mechanics. For the lore, I fell in love with the fact that there were 35 years of story events that progressed along with the real timeline. I could feel the change as things shifted as I read through material, and for sort of the recent set of lore. That I really thought was interesting is I'm enjoying the next meta plot. I'm enjoying what they're putting together for the Dissians that came out with Slipstream and that came out with Scotophobia. Like that story is a little bit unique compared to some of the past ones. We were actually talking before the show about a lot of the body stealing that was occurring between Shedham and was occurring within CFD, and I actually think that this new direction is super fun.
Awesome. Yeah. And just for reference for our audience, so Scotophobia, the books that Aaron mentioned, they are splat books for the line. So we talked to Rusty last week about fiction. Russell, I cannot say his pro name. I cannot do it. But these are they are rule books, but they're kind of the supporting rule books to the core series. So
I think a lot of them are called campaign books or plot books.
That's better terminology than I use. Thank you. Awesome. What about you, Bob?
Well, Aaron's right. I'm a mechanics guy. I'm a math nerd, so the crunch is what does it for me. And as I mentioned about what drew me into Shadowrun to begin with, is the technology. So the Matrix is my baby. I love the Matrix. I love rigging. I love the man and machine aspect of it. And yeah, the crunch of it. It's
the one part that even at San Diego Comic-Con, so I was reading on the plane the entire way to get familiar with the mechanics to be their source for the show. When we were originally going to do just Sixth World, and Matrix was still one where I'm like, I think I've got like 50-60% of it.
Yeah. Well, it's I like to tell people it's a lot like chess. You can learn to play chess really easy, but mastering it, that's a whole different ballgame.
Fair.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. We've got more questions for ya. I was paying attention to you guys instead of scrolling and prepping for the next question. I'm looking for question marks, and so the next question mark I see is what if my idea is that the planet is made of soft cheese? Is that an acceptable Shadowrun idea?
I think it would work for an Alkera, but that'd be about it. It wouldn't be the whole planet. You'd probably pick like a city that becomes Limburger. Maybe it is Limburg.
Awesome.
Yeah, anything can happen in Shadowrun.
Yeah. I think especially with the planes and stuff like that. Like I know Clifton Lambert just wrote in dinosaurs in some way.
Yep.
So it's your world. Play with it as much or as little as you want.
That was Astral Ways was in the book.
Was it Astral Ways? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we've got PAX U. What else is happening? Please like the stream, subscribe, both this and the Realmsmith, so that we're looking very hard at numbers, because doing streams like this with actors like this is not cheap. And so if we want a season 2, we need to turn all of these views into likes, into subscribes, into clicks over to our web store. We've got a coupon for 15% off at the online store if you use, what is it, Jason? I think it's Realmsmith 15. So there's your promo code. Let's see.
I got my hoodie that I'm wearing tonight. So
right, I love your hoodie. I still need to order myself one. I have the old 5th edition shirt right now.
Yeah, I love how they change the color with each edition for the S. Like, just fantastic.
Big Red, I see that you don't get to playing the game that you cover. I see you falling in the same trap as I. Yeah. But we love it. We love spreading the love of our system.
I have not played a game of Shadowrun in probably 10 years.
We need to fix that, Bob.
Yeah.
All right. Question from Jason Azevedo. Love to hear how our guests feel about our stewardship of the 6th world thus far.
I mean, I'll grab that.
Cool.
So one of the things I have fallen in love with the show is the depth of character, the fact that the characters are coming to life, they're encountering, scheming, slimy Johnsons. They're digging into things that are way over their head, which is the exact feel that I love, and it's not all about getting the most new yen. It has that hooder sort of aspect to it, where you are punching up. I always dislike where it feels much more like Mercenaries, or you're you're getting paid to punch down and you do it anyway because it's money. I'd much rather see, like, occasionally taking that job, get a little more karma, and it hit those that probably deserve to get hit.
Yeah, it's punk, which has a subversive nature to it in itself, and in addition to that, it's just because you are criminals doesn't mean you're bad. And I think that's the level of depth of the story that I love telling. That you don't get as much from, like, D&D, where it's like, you're the barbarian, you're getting paid to go smash things, right? And yes, you can have deep backstories, but this world is built for that. And that's what I love about it. Now, Bob, I got to hear in the pre-show, has some criticism.
Only because I'm such a crunch guy. It's you're playing fast and loose with the rules. It's great for the storytelling. It's great for the entertainment. But being the crunch guy, yes, I cringe a little bit. But the story they're telling is great. The entertainment factors there, introducing new people to what the world is. I have nothing but 2 thumbs up for that whole part of it.
Awesome, thank you. Awesome. Yeah, Jason, I did email you guys, the cast, about what sizes you are and merch to get you guys. So you need that hoodie. You got to send me that email. Oh, wow, the chat moved again. Gosh, guys, I'm so distracted. Tonight's not my most organized night. Let's see. Crunch.
I see one about Latin America and South America, whether we'll be publishing down there. And I think that's a question for CGL as a whole. I do know we have one Catalyst demo agent, I believe, down in Brazil. But we'd love to grow and grab more.
Yeah, I think our biggest fan base, from managing social media, I know this now, is other than the US, it's Toronto, it's Germany, and it's Australia. So, and Germany and Australia, we knew. Toronto was a little bit of a surprise for me, but how did we get Matt Mercer's Rolodex? Jason Azevedo had Matt Mercer's Rolodex and is actually friends with Matt, and asked him to be part of the show, and not to mention getting in touch with all these great actors. But gaming is a small world. You meet people very quickly, and you don't always know who you're meeting. I went to a dinner at Gen Con and was talking to someone that said that they worked for WotC on Magic the Gathering. And I asked them a question and they said to ask via email. So they put their email in my phone. It was freaking Mike Merles. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So yeah. it's a small community, and it's pretty intimate, but very, very big kudos for the gets that Jason got. They did a wonderful job telling the story. What is each of your favorite class or archetype for Shadowrun? We know Bob is a decker.
Technomancer, actually.
Oh, really? Magic computers.
My most often played archetype is the Technomancer face hybrid.
Oh. How about you, Aaron?
It depends. So there's a couple groups that mostly they need support characters. So I do tend to play deckers and support mages. But I have a deep love of playing faces. I can't help it. I will lie and talk the entire game session if someone lets me. Especially if the story isn't moving. Like, all right, I'm gonna lie my way through this.
Mine, I usually play Curie, who's a mage, nice mage combat type. But I also played Lotus, and she's got some art pieces out there for missions for her too. But she is Japanese and kind of a street Sam type, but she also has augmentations that allow like her face to change structure and stuff like that, and vocal modulators so she can imitate people or just change her appearance and stuff. So she's if you ever see a blonde American looking woman wearing Japanese apparel, that's Lotus.
I think those were all in season 9 artwork.
I think so. That was Danny was still missions developer then.
Yep.
Cool. So we talked about classes. What else do we have? All the question marks are distracting. The next question I have from Big Red 40 Tech is, how dare you? Just in general. For an in-game question from Sir Blame, what are your guys' favorite part of the planet to play in that's not North America?
I'll let you go first.
I've probably spent most of my non-North American campaign time in Neo Tokyo. Because right behind the technology, my favorite part of Shadowrun is the intrigue, the political, machinations of it all, and that's a big thing in Tokyo. So
yeah. How about you, Aaron? Kip is very opinionated about Neo Tokyo, apparently.
I would say it's a tough one. I've used Vladivostok, and I've used in general Nigeria, because you have the Kilimanjaro space gun. I can't remember the mash driver. Sorry, having a little trouble. And I thought those were two interesting ones. I liked Nigeria a lot because there is this huge corporate court presence that you can feel them operating like and controlling the environment. But you've also got these street gangs that are basically trying to scrap their way through and work within that presence. And I thought that was just really a fun backdrop.
I think mine is Australia. I love the mana storms, the wild magic. You're not sure what you're going to run into. I like the wild feel of it. Cool. If you guys could change one thing about Shadowrun, rules-wise or story-wise, what would it be?
Just one?
Just one.
I think it's similar to what Russell said last week, which is we do have between the two of us, we get an opportunity to sort of inject things that we want to see occur. I can say like one of my favorite ones recently was injecting a lot of the AI rules that I felt worked better with character creation, which was super fun. But looking forward,
I guess it should be changed to something I haven't already changed, because I've made a lot of changes in the last 4 or 5 years.
Wait, when you actually write for Shadowrun, you get to control some of that.
I think one. I think I've got one that is interesting. I think when we look at Magic, I love UMT for making it easy to play, but I also love where the rules represent like the differences between these type of traditions. And I got a chance to play with it. There's an upcoming PDF release for a tradition that would be very useful in New Orleans. But I'd
Ooh.
like to see more of that kind of thing where the tradition feels different than the UMT.
Yeah, I would second that. UMT from a game mechanic point, UMT is great, but from a feel, UMT's a little whitewashed. I'd like to see that.
What does UMT stand for our audience?
Universal Magical Theory. It's where all magic works the same. Like I said, it's great for game mechanics because it let us focus the magic rules in one particular method, and but it took some of the flavor of the different traditions out when they did that, and I'd like to see that come back from the old days.
Cool.
I'm a big throwback to the pre-wireless Matrix, though.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I mean, I know the wireless Matrix is so much more modern and fitting with the society we actually live in.
Yeah.
But it's, to me, it's less cyberpunky. I love that wired connection you had back in the old days that just felt more, when you actually had to plug into the system.
Yeah, you and me are just going to disagree on that, Bob, because I'm playing a game for podcast right now for Shadowrun Origins, and it's taking place in the 2050s, which you have to plug in for, even though in the modern world, in the 2020s, you don't have to. And it's so annoying because every time something happens, I'm like, where do I plug in? Like, it's outside. Where can I find an outlet or an Ethernet cable?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys. Oh, one more question. We'll do this last one here from Sir Blame. What would be a tip for a new fan of Shadowrun, a player, a GM, or just a lore nerd?
I would say if you're a lore nerd, there's the trilogy, the Power Trilogy, the classic Shadowrun novel is just a super fun read, and it's actually the first books that I read.
Is that the Nigel Finley?
Yes.
Yeah, the How to Deal with It or Never Deal with the Dragon, and yeah.
As far as diving into the crunch, I'd have to say don't take it too serious. It is like a 400 and some page book that's full of rules. Don't worry about it. Just have fun. Learn what you can learn as you go, and as you master one thing, move on to the next. Don't worry about learning everything all at once.
I still don't know all the rules.
No.
And I never will. It's okay, because I have my fun in different ways.
Exactly. It's just pick up a bunch of dice and roll it. Pretend you know what you're doing.
Yeah. My advice will be on lore as well. And shameless and not so shameless plug at the same time. So I run the Shadowcasters Network YouTube channel, and we do a lot of Shadowrun over there. There's stuff from years and years and years past that's kind of Shadowrun and Shadowrun adjacent. But we do an every other week live stream of 6th edition that's run and played by some demo agents, and we have a rotating cast. So if you've ever wanted to get into streaming and gaming, you can watch that. We also did all of the Chicago series of Shadowrun missions. So I think it's 4 seasons?
It's 3. No, 3? You're right. It's 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 4.
5, 6,
but
7,
it was
8,
6. Yeah, it was 6 missions per.
Yeah. So we played through that, and we really took our time. So instead of the 4-hour mission, it's a 2-hour stream, but we went as long as it took for people to do their legwork or explore or go shopping or whatever the case may be. So there is, 1 episode left of Realmsmith's Excommunication, but there's still so much more content for you out there. Additionally, on the Shadowcasters Network, we have the Neo-Anarchist vidcast, which is little bits from Opti, who's the Shadowcasters originally were like a little celebrity Shadowrun group that got pretty popular. And Opti is wonderful, and he does these 8 to 12-minute segments on lore in Shadowrun, so you can catch up on those. And then Mr. Johnson does the the Arcology vidcast and the Arcology podcast as well. And those are kind of news in the sixth world. So what's happening with Shadowrun, what new books are coming out, what adjacent things or things that overlap and have interest, what events are happening. So it's more of news about Shadowrun and stuff like that. So so check it out. There is a ton of content over there, and always looking on doing more. Mr. Johnson might actually be running another campaign of missions for us, but we're just deciding where we want to be and if we want to play 5th or 6th or Anarchy for that. So tons over there. I say it's a shameless plug and not, because I'm working on maybe making that the official Catalyst Shadowrun network. But I also might bring some of those shows over here. I haven't decided yet. So, but yeah, so head over to Shadowcasters Network for all of that lore.
The other is just jump in and play, right? Like Shadowrun Missions Online is a great place to be. If you can't find a game locally, hit me up. Me and a couple other demo agents run the Shadowrun Missions Facebook page, which is SR Missions. We'll try to hook you up with somebody that's in the area. We'll check around, find demo agents if we've got any nearby.
Yeah, if you have questions, I'll even drop our Discord server, and Aaron is in there as well, so you can find him doing this on the fly.
And you can find me on the Discord. You can find me on the Facebook Shadowrunners Union, and as well as ShadowrunTabletop.com. The forums there. So anybody has questions, I'm out there. I'm in the public. I don't hide behind a false identity or anything. I'm easy to find.
I do.
It's all good.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. It's always fun to talk to you and hang out. Thank you guys for joining in for the episode and for the post-show commentary of the Shadowcast. Thank you for everything. Hopefully we will see you at some of the upcoming conventions, if not the conventions for next year. It is the 35th anniversary next year of Shadowrun, so we have a lot of goodness coming. But until next time, stay safe in the shadows. Bye, everyone.